Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the pod. This is CAF News. My name is Kevin Donovan. I'm a chief architect with the 𝐍𝐕 Consultancy, and with me is Bryce. Bryce?
Hi, I'm Bryce 𝐍𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐈𝐾. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Deep Dive World, and I'm also a Chief Architect with the 𝐍𝐕 Consultancy. And we've got some stories for you today that I think you're going to find really interesting. First, we're going to talk about the Bizdesign Mega merger. Second, we're going to go into NVIDIA and what some of these changes actually mean going forward. And finally, we want to talk about careers in AI and how people are being spammed, ultra spammed, in fact, by applications that may not be relevant. Over to you, Kevin, to talk about, you've had some follow-up on the Bizdesign Mega merger.
Yeah, I reached out to one of my friends on LinkedIn, Kate Riss, in the UK office of Bizdesign. I suppose actually kind of the big news is that there wasn't a lot of news. They're kind of tight-lipped about this. The merger between Bizdesign, Mega, and an unnamed third party that they keep mentioning but not naming. The Bizdesign Mega piece has been announced. It is not closed, which is important to note. Closing, they say, is imminent, which should mean in a matter of weeks, not months. Interestingly, the third party will be closing in months, not weeks. So that's a little further out. And the only thing I could get is that at one point, one person said, an enterprise software provider.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense, Kevin. I'm going to sort of speculate on third parties here. And when you start talking about enterprise software providers, we see people that have been in that game like SAP, right down to Salesforce, Oracle. Wow, that could be a lot of things in there, but that would certainly strengthen that whole Bizdesign Mega consultancy by putting that with a large, I'm going to guess SAP on this one.
Well, this comes hot on the heels of SAP outright purchasing LeanIX. Are they going to double up, have two offerings? I don't know. I mean, certainly they have the customer base for it. But the only other clue that I could tease out was that we talked at one point about culture and how you're going to operationalize all this, and mergers have risk of failure. And we talked about how you have a French company and a Dutch company, and is that going to work? How is that going to work? And they said, well, yeah, I mean, there's, it's a very international market. We're national companies. All three parties are from different countries. So the enterprise software provider is not French and not Dutch. I think we could conclude.
Well, let me go
know.
Let me go wild with the speculation then. What about one of the big six, somebody like Palantir or Microsoft or Amazon? Now that would really create a competitive framework for bringing these tools in. I think it would shake the world, actually, in terms of EA practice.
Interesting if Amazon would want to play in this space. I wonder. I don't know.
Well,
but
I guess we're going to have to wait.
In broad terms of kind of, what they're trying to do here, Bizdesign will remain the brand. Mega will apparently sort of be subsumed. But when you say Bizdesign, a lot of people think 𝐼𝐸 and still think that Bizdesign is an 𝐼𝐸 modeling tool. They're not really tired of that. They're like, hey, standards exist for a reason. They, they serve a purpose. But they talked about how they want to go beyond being a modeling tool to changing the vision, reframing the narrative around enterprise architecture from tool modeling vendor to a digital transformation platform enabler for all stakeholders. I said, some people love, 𝐼𝐸 and like the rigor of the design and whatever, but there are many stakeholders who are not going to appreciate or ever learn. And so need, something broader, something more flexible. And they want to be all things to all of these stakeholders, have all of those kind of levels available and kind of, granularity and broad vision as well.
And that really starts to get me think on a whole different angle, which is around the data and building ontologies to support data and leveraging that into what they're doing to be very generic. And I got to say, I'd be really excited. It's probably going to be a major player given like the footprint that they have.
I think so.
I would be, I mean, if it was something like Palantir, bringing that in with their ontology and AI framework to help actually set up the enterprise, I think that would be a game changer. On the other hand, it could be somebody like an IBM just trying to sort of refresh their tooling set, which I don't think would be as exciting. What do you think, Kevin?
No, I agree. Yeah, the IBM would be just another string in the, chain of acquisitions and would probably mean the death of the product at some point. Yeah, I would hope. I mean, Palantir is an interesting bid, actually, given that they're expanding more and more their, out of the government space and into commercial spaces. I wonder if they would see, and they of course would see value and understand the approach and the tooling and everything about the meta model and ontologies and all that. Yeah, that's I don't know.
Until our next episode, let's hold that one. I think there's a lot happening there.
Yeah.
Now, the other one we started off just before this discussion, I think the big juggernaut is NVIDIA. They're a huge beast. They're growing. I mean, they threaten to take the landscape. Now, there's some issues that you've heard about. I think we were talking just sort of pre-game about that, Kevin, in terms of the profitability, right?
Right. Yeah, I was reading a really interesting thread by Trung Fan on Twitter. Of course, as you mentioned, taking over. I mean, a huge run up in the stock. What is it? Is it 9x at this point or more? Full transparency, I own none. But you referred to this Sequoia Capital investor, David Kahn, talking about NVIDIA's dominance in an article entitled AI's $600 billion question. And he was pointing very, very pointedly at the revenue question. There's a massive CapEx spend that big tech is making in chips and data centers. OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, Apple, Meta, Oracle, X, Tencent, Tesla. They'll be spending, I think, like 150 billion on chips this year from NVIDIA. That will need to generate about 600 billion in revenue to pay back that infrastructure spend. They're only projecting about 100 billion in AI related revenues, leaving a $500 billion hole for this year. Where does that leave?
Here's some interesting insights on that. And so this is really a good point. I have to fully disclose that my portfolio is invested to the hilt with NVIDIA right now. And I'm sort of stuck at, I think it's at around 123 something right now. And I'm just got my fingers crossed that it breaks to that 150 mark personally. But going in to address some of these issues, here's some really interesting ideas that are coming forward. When they're looking at the AI revolution, there's, I think, three major thoughts that come to mind. The first thought is that you're following a progression from sort of the foundation, which is the hardware, moving towards application software to real world applications. And each of those tiers is going to play a role in the development of AI. We see other companies that are sort of following in this ecosystem, like Palantir, for instance, in the application space and going forward. But here's the interesting thing that I think that's coming forward. Jensen Huang made some statements that could be construed as NVIDIA may actually move into the application space. They feel that they're creating a workhouse engine with Blackwell, and they've got their CUDA software that they build around it. And he's saying that they actually could have the manpower by putting roughly 1,000 AIs per employee to enable them, was the number that he gave. And so I think that's the first thought. Number two to think about, Blackwell, their new GPU, which is itself is just, it's a monster. It's broken Moore's law. They've along with AMD, they've shown that Moore's law no longer holds. They've just blown that out of the water. But here's the interesting thing about Blackwell. It sounds as if Blackwell has been pre-sold already in the first quarter to Microsoft. So they've already just sold it out.
Exclusive access or something?
The first person to get it will be Microsoft. They've actually bought all the Blackwell GPUs. So that's, I think, the second part of this. Interesting development. And the third part, of course, is what happens in terms of the energy sustainability. And one of the comments that Jensen Huang has made is, well, look, we've been doing a lot of training, but a lot of training, a lot of learning. But when we go to the inferencing phase, it becomes much, much more efficient. And so we haven't hit that yet. Kevin, 3 big thoughts there. Any comments?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I wouldn't have expected a move directly to software by them, but if you look at what he has led since the mid 80s, I mean,
here's the thing, Kevin. You've got companies like Cerebro, which are trying to do a play to go into that market, but a lot of the experts are feeling, no, the moat's just too big right now. That how does somebody like Cerebro sell GPUs? How do they get into the market? And then ultimately, if NVIDIA is there, there's the question of how does this play with the architecture space? What do we need to know about these new engines? How does that change the game? And I'm going to put another one out. How does it change the game when the GPUs are sold out a quarter in advance?
Yeah. That, I mean, allotting them to Microsoft all for the first quarter is a very interesting play, and will probably only drive price and stock price up as well. I find his vision interesting, compelling, very kind of visionary. Next gen. He talks about AI data centers as the atomic unit of computing in the future.
Yes.
Not a computer, not a server. Servers are, millions of servers in a data center. That's your basic unit. And how that, with AI running on all that, simply changes, very basically, software and everything that runs software. And as you mentioned, thousands of AI agents running everywhere, in the large, in the small, local, and in data centers, and everyone being the CEO of their own AI agents. And when I looked at this article I read, kind of conclosed with that he doesn't see, good for your stock holdings. He doesn't see NVIDIA as a share taker. He doesn't even see the AI market or GPUs as this, closed game. It's not zero sum. He sees them as a market maker, which of course is what they have done for the last 40 years also, that this will only expand. And so, of course, he was also pitching. So go ahead, buy the stock at highs. It doesn't matter. We're going much higher.
Well, that's a great point, and that goes in line with an interview that I saw with Jensen Huang yesterday, and where he's saying, like, we're here to make a bigger pie. And, this has been echoed by other people in the world, like Cathie Woods with her ARK fund. They're talking about the pace of this digital transformation has been unprecedented. And when you see, like, Moore's law, I mean, let's face it, that's created basically per unit of production the cheapest chips we've ever had, the most power per chip, and that is amazing to me. Some next steps. I think, I don't know where this is going. I mean, let's maybe hold that one. We'll add more in our next talk on it. And let me ask you the other question. Nobody would use this, of course, would use the power of AI to blatantly send in resumes and just spam people with it. That wouldn't happen, would it, Kevin?
No, it's all white hat. It's all, everyone is using it for good. No,
right on. I feel so much. We do have to talk ethics frameworks at some point, but yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
You came across an interesting article about somebody who had been, I think, spammed. Basically, they put out a job ad, and they got. What's up with that, and how does that affect our careers?
Well, yeah, it talks about this escalating arms race that I'm sure we'll see in many other arenas. I didn't know that it had come to, job applications and people, handling jobs. I mean, I know that there are application tracking systems that have, that are highly automated, but I talked with Craig Vickers from Ensys, and they have a really interesting architecture, contracting, and consulting practice model, sort of a, either full-time or pay-as-you-go fractional sort of
Yep.
approach. But yeah, this like AI war around applications. He posted a job rec, and within the day had received in excess of 500 applications for this role. And many, he said, had, perfectly aligned, summary or cover pages tailored to the job description, but as soon as you go to page 2 or 3 or 4, he said there was absolutely no clear evidence of actual work or relevant experience in any of these resumes or CVs. And then he said, what's more, in the following couple of days, he just received an avalanche of automated follow-up messages, obviously automated. And he just felt like, it made the entire process feel less personal, less doable, less manageable. And yeah, so now he's looking for, okay, I guess I need an AI tool to sort out the AI submissions and AI communications that come at me. I mean, are we all, I don't know what your inbox looks like. Mine's never at 0, but are we all going to need that? I guess.
Well, Kevin, you got me a little bit worried because I know a lot of the meetings, we see your AI note taker come online. And I
I'm
don't know,
part of the
when does it
problem,
become
not the
autonomous?
solution.
When does it start answering for Kevin, and I mean,
Right.
we're really seeing, I think we're seeing two trends out of this. One is, as we get more AI, we're able to get a more, I guess, ubiquitous, a more emerged context with the way we interact with the systems. I heard an interesting prediction. Again, this was Cathie Woods talking about the future of sales. Why do you even need a dedicated sales site when you could use AI? And now I'm immersed in something. Say I'm out skiing, and I go, man, I need a new pair of ski goggles. Done, ordered. It becomes part of my environment, right?
Oh, well, yeah, sure.
And I mean, this is what we're going to see: thousands of AIs now competing in these ecosystems. And we're seeing this. I think that the job is the first area that I think we're seeing this, to your point, right? It's like AIs countering AIs. I mean, this is going to go into the whole misinformation world. Is the other thing I can really see is, the Russian, if I may use that term, the Russian, propaganda mills, and then
Oh,
on
yeah,
the other
sure.
side, the anti, like, how do we spot it, right? So it's a really exciting race, and whether we like it or not, even with ethical AI, with some people doing it, there will be those who don't. And yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, interesting. Well, certainly probably 3 subjects that we will be revisiting. Before we wrap, I just wanted to
Yes.
mention to all the CAP members out there that we have our October event here on Friday. It is 4 to 6 p.m. European time, which would translate to 10 to 12 Eastern time if you're in the
Yes.
US.
Thanks, Kevin.
So we'll have Rick Pastor and Lisa Predico talking about sustainability and the new sustainability practice, also sustainableIT.org. And then Vipin Jain, our very own, is going to be talking about AI strategies for companies, organizations looking to approach best a way to, begin to incorporate AI into their business processes. So be there. And if you're not a member, go to the Chief Architect Forum website, apply.
Well said, Kevin. Thank you. Till next time.
All right. Thanks so much, Bryce.